Smell me like a Hellcat.
Hey guys, here we are with another episode of Matt Chats. I am joined today with Katelyn Craine from Hubspot. She's part of their diversity and inclusion team, and that is a huge topic right now, especially in just our day-to-day conversations, let alone the business places. Just growth is a huge thing, and making sure that this team is very well equipped to handle any kind of changes and make sure that they're obtaining company goals, especially from their perspective as well as the company's and Enablement's perspective. So without further ado, Miss Katelyn Craine, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, and thanks for having me.
Yeah. Welcome. I don't want to steal too much of your thunder. I mean, I love the topic of diversity and inclusion. It's huge. I mean, the fact that you guys already have one spun up is just amazing. So I'm going to let you kind of speak a little bit about it, introduce yourself, kind of how you got there, what your company does, and what you do there.
Yeah, definitely. So Hubspot is an inbound marketing software company founded in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And so I joined Hubspot about 3 years ago as a member of the diversity and inclusion team, which is housed under our culture team. But my background was in the higher education space. So I came from Northeastern University, which is a local college here in Massachusetts, and then just found this exciting opportunity to head up diversity and inclusion for our global sales org at HubSpot. And so, like I said, I've been here for 3 years and haven't really looked back. It's been amazing.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you here today. Let's jump right into it. How would you correlate, your collaboration between working with your enablement partner, and how do you bridge that gap between diversity and inclusion to enablement?
Yeah, absolutely. So my role has just recently expanded. So I am now manager for diversity and inclusion for our global sales and customer success team. So both of our customer facing teams at HubSpot. And I would say my partnership with both the CS enablement team, so our customer success enablement team, as well as our sales enablement team is absolutely paramount. And so in the first couple of years in my role, when I was just specifically working in sales, I worked really closely with enablement to make sure that really our primary goal was to ensure that managers were well equipped to foster and build diverse and inclusive teams. And so a lot of my partnership with enablement has first stemmed from that. So making sure that we're really operationalizing D&I at that manager level. And then in my work with customer success, we've really worked closely to roll out trainings to their entire global org. And again, I just have really appreciated that kind of tight-knit partnership between us. So leveraging their expertise in kind of the training and development space, and then my expertise in the diversity and inclusion space. It's been great.
That is awesome. It sounds like you guys have already built that great foundation between the two different teams, which is amazing. Let's discuss like a gold medal moment for you. The moment that you wanted to stand on top of the mountain and just shout from the rooftops that this was the project that we are the most proud of that we've worked together on.
Yeah, definitely. So it's been probably since like late last year, the sales manager enablement team and I had been working to build out, their team had been working to build out sales manager competencies. So kind of the core skills and attributes that we're expecting of sales managers globally. And so I was able to partner with them for a very small part of that competency project to develop an inclusion and diversity competency. So all managers in sales are now held accountable for fostering inclusion and building effective teams. And so that partnership, which spanned, like I said, from late last year into just recently, we just launched the competencies a few months ago, was such a great opportunity for us to really come together and kind of, like I said earlier, leverage the sales manager enablement team's expertise as well as my expertise in the D&I space. And so our gold medal moment was being able to work on and develop those competencies for so long and eventually have them roll out into not only our sales manager performance review process, but also our sales manager promotion criteria process. And so we do performance reviews a couple times a year for sales managers, and now one of the competencies or those skills and attributes that they're able to be measured against is, again, that fostering inclusion competency, as well as the building effective teams competency. And then kind of building off of that, we were able to roll it into the promotion process, like I said. And so in order to be promoted as a sales manager, you now have to be reviewed against, again, that competency to foster inclusion and build effective teams.
That is awesome. I love the fact that you guys are making that a KPI for promotion. I don't think that that's one of the things that's ever been done from a sales perspective in order to grow. My years in sales, I know I never had to look at anything like that. Granted, it seems like diversity and inclusion is such a new thing, which it shouldn't be. It should have been something that's been around. But to have those measurable successes, I think that's huge. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, look, just to use your terminology, a gold medal moment. Our work in the D&I space has been going on for about 5 years now. And like I said, my role has existed for 3 of those 5-ish. And so we've really made such great strides company-wide, but to truly kind of build in that operational D&I component into specific departments has just been such a huge win for us. And then customer success enablement just, I think last week launched, I think it was last week, they just launched their inclusion competency as well. So we're proving the model works, and it's been just a great partnership between myself and Enablement.
That's huge. That is so huge. So I can only imagine, given what Enablement does, what D&I does, everybody's juggling so many different projects. Where is the time that you think that you've seen a project fall short, or you just weren't so impressed? And like, how did you identify that? And then what did you learn moving on from that?
Yeah. So last summer, I was working with the customer success enablement team to roll out this global training called Be an Upstander, Not a Bystander. And I think, you just set it up like really well, that I had a ton going on my side of things. And then the CS enablement team had a ton going on their side of things. So we were really kind of collaborating together to roll out this global training. And instead of having one dedicated trainer or a couple of dedicated trainers, which was the model that I took when rolling it out for our global sales org, just kind of the years prior, we decided to do a train the trainer model. And so we selected some superstars from customer success who really were looking to get more engaged in just the D&I space, and said, hey, I'm really interested in becoming a trainer for this global D&I training you're trying to roll out. And so I worked with Enablement there, but I think we kind of dropped the ball on ensuring that our trainers were set up for success. We put them through a robust training program. We provided a lot of resources, but I think communication was a little bit tricky, especially with the global teams. And so we were kind of balancing this, like, well, whose responsibility actually is it to communicate to these teams? How are we kind of coming along? And it was a lot of like, okay, you're busy on the enablement side, I'll pick this up, or I'm too busy on my side of things, like enablement can pick this up. And I think we really missed the mark to kind of delineate clearer responsibilities from the beginning, which led to kind of some of those communication challenges, especially when it came to the global team. And so we identified this probably about like a quarter of the way through the rollout, and then we're really able to kind of walk it back. So we provided more resources to the training team to make sure, again, they were getting the feedback that they really needed when it came to rolling out these sessions. And then ultimately, knowing that the trainers themselves, this was not their full-time job, they had a ton going on in their own roles. We realized that we were probably putting a little bit too much responsibility on them and expecting a little bit too much from the training team. And so also kind of at that quarter, like midway point, customer success enablement was really able to step in to say, let's take a little bit more of this work on ourselves. So we got to the goal that we set out to achieve, but we certainly learned a lot throughout the process, I'll say.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I think the biggest thing that I know that I've worked on and talking to many others at this point already, like the biggest thing when it comes down to these failures and like what we learned is communication. Like if there's not enough of it, it doesn't happen. And I think you touched on this going into even the next question. So how do you plan successful releases with your enablement teams or partners? I know you touched on communication. We just talked about that. and identifying who's responsible for what. Is there anything else that you want to add to how you guys planned out successful transitions to the teams?
Yeah, I think it depends on the project. And so with this training rollout that I was just speaking of, that was really kind of the collaboration between myself and CS Enablement to kind of sit down and say, this is our rough timeline. These are our kind of KPIs throughout. These are, this is where we want to be at X point. And so I found that to be kind of that true partnership. And it was great to have that because we were able to, again, kind of collaborate when things were going off the rails a little bit and pull ourselves back. I think, when working with my sales enablement partners, I have learned so much from them about just kind of, I've been kind of a sponge when it comes to project management. I consider myself a really highly organized person. I love to plan and organize and kind of and build project plans myself, but I've learned a lot from just the enablement team on the sales side of things. So I think I tend to just consider myself a sponge. And for those projects where I'm more of just kind of one component of their larger project plan, it's a little bit different of just communication. So making sure that I can meet their deadlines, I can be really open with what I have on my plate and how we're going to work together to make sure that I can fit seamlessly into their project plans versus me actually kind of planning something with them.
That's huge. Yeah. No, I think that's great. I think the learning from each other is also a massive undertaking too. I love this question, and I get challenged it a lot in my role, but if you had a magic wand and unlimited funds, unlimited budget, unlimited timeline, what would be your ideal relationship and collaboration between enablement and D&I?
I just wish we could do more, I would say. I think, both of our enablement teams are relatively small. Customer success is in the early stages of building out their team. I think they've been around for just a little bit over a year, maybe a year and a half at this point. Our sales enablement team is much more established, but I partner really closely with the manager enablement team in that sector. And so they're also a really small team. And so there are only a finite number of projects that we can really collaborate on in a given quarter, in a given year. And so I had a magic wand. It would be, give them more resources, give me more resources so that we could continue to really operationalize diversity and inclusion throughout. Again, we've made some huge strides, but there's so much more that we can be doing. And I think it's just kind of comes down to resources, which I think probably a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah, 100%. And I think especially now, like with COVID and budgets all being revisited, like it's huge, especially more to be collaborative. Given the fact that you're working with enablement, I could also imagine that you're probably partnering with HR and recruiting to making sure that onboarding and all of that is part of that as well too. Am I correct?
Yes, very much so. I, came into HubSpot part of our larger culture team, part of a small cohort of folks working on diversity and inclusion. But I was the sole person responsible for diversity and inclusion in sales. And so I really worked to kind of build out, we call ourselves kind of sales support. And so it's our HR business partner, it's our sales new hire trainer, it's our sales recruiting team, which are phenomenal. It's our remote inclusion program manager. We all come together on a monthly basis, and we all have our own really unique ways of partnering with the enablement teams as well. But my role requires so much collaboration from all those different teams and more to make sure that we're really setting our employees up for success, which is, again, kind of the ultimate goal of enablement. I'm not an official enablement team member, but I do feel like one. I feel like a lot of my job kind of falls into that enablement category often.
I will definitely say anybody that supports a sales or CS team or anybody that's on a customer facing team, if you support them, you're part of the enablement family. Yep. Yeah. You won't be removed in my book. So, Katelyn, I honestly can't thank you enough. Like, this has been great. The information is like wealth of knowledge. I'm sure people would love to pick your brain. Connect with her on LinkedIn. She'll be tagged in this post as well too. Katelyn, any last like closing thoughts or like any advice that you'd want to give to people before we sign off today?
I just think like if you are at a company that has a diversity and inclusion team or even just people working in the diversity and inclusion space unofficially, pull them into your enablement work. I think your employees and your company can only benefit from it. And then to kind of your earlier point, Matt, communication is just so key to these relationships, especially when you're working with a global team like we are at HubSpot. So yes, like feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to chat, but thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much, Katelyn. I definitely appreciate your help today. Guys, another episode of Matt Chats. Here we are again. Check us out next week. I'm here with Naomi Warden. She's from Route. She's going to talk to us about more of like the CS operations side and how all of that evolves onto their side and how she works very closely on enablement. But I've got also a really cool marketing guru coming up too, so stay tuned. We've got a couple more episodes of Bridging the Gap. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Katelyn.
Thanks, Matt.